I just want to be able to still do it when I'm young and not wait I'm 10 years down the road and then not able to keep compete and have any kind of regret. I hate kick him with his machine flush across his face and then he just took it and smiled and just beckoned me on. So I know, okay, I'm in for a fight. After working since I started at NTU to now, I think I realized I just want to make an impact on people's life. At the same time, we're earning a good income to be able to sustain myself and my family.
Welcome to Before We Get There, the podcast where we explore people's journeys, how they got to where they are, what keeps them pushing forward, and where they eventually want to get to. I'm your host, Nicholas Braman, and today I'm joined by Glen Lee. Glen is an amateur MMA fighter with a record of 5-1. Glen works as a strength and conditioning, jiu-jitsu, and Muay Thai coach for Field Assembly and the Physio Circle in Singapore. In this discussion, we talked about how he got into martial arts and how he balances training multiple disciplines, getting prepared for fights both physically and mentally, how he finds the best training regimes for his clients, the challenges of switching paths in the middle of his education, and much more. Enjoy the show.
Hey, thanks, Nick.
So I'm really excited to have you on the podcast. You've had, I think, 6 amateur MMA fights. What was it that first made you want to get started in combat sports?
I first started when I was 14 years old doing Muay Thai at Baiji. Then I branched out into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at about 16 years old. Eventually, at about 19 years old, I started MMA because it's the combination of both striking and grappling.
I think most people who I've talked to a few MMA fighters before that do both grappling and striking, and they usually have, in their deep hearts, they have a preference for which one they actually enjoy more. Do you?
It's hard for me to say, but numerous people have asked me this question. Sometimes I gravitate towards striking, and other times, if I watch more jiu-jitsu matches, then I'll gravitate more towards jiu-jitsu. So I don't really have a particular preference.
And what's interesting to me is MMA is a completely separate sport than just either pure grappling or pure striking. How do you balance your training schedule and continue to get better at all of the different disciplines that you need to?
I try to make sure the training is balanced. For example, if I'm preparing for a fight, right, I'll make sure that I have equal striking as well as grappling sessions throughout the week. So if I have 3 striking sessions, I make sure I have 3 grappling sessions. Yeah, you can't just rely on one session being pure striking and one session being pure grappling because it's a blend in MMA. It's always a striking focus, but also bear in mind that the guy can still take you down. And there is a grappling focus session, but also bear in mind that the guy can still punch and strike.
And then you have to fit in strength and conditioning with that as well.
Yeah. So on top of that, in the training camp, I also fit in at least 2 to 3 sessions of strength conditioning or S&C within a week.
And what does that look like for you? What kind of things do you do?
So for S&C, I keep it pretty basic during fight camp. So it's a lot of compound movements to things like squat, deadlift, bench, and row variations. So pull-ups or the bend over rows. As well as some accessory work or focusing on joints.
With all that training, how do you know if you're getting overtrained or if you just are feeling lazy or not in the right mindset?
Yeah, so I think that's a tricky question because there are 2 ends of the spectrum. Some people on one end, they don't push themselves hard enough and always give themselves excuses. And then you have the other end of the spectrum whereby people push themselves too hard and they do not know when to stop. But I think for athletes, for myself, you tend to want to gravitate towards doing more because it makes you feel psychologically secure and you know you've done the work and you know that you have put in the effort and it makes you feel confident going into a fight, preparing the best you can. So I guess for me, the challenge is to try to know when to hold back and when to pull back on the training if I'm overtraining. For me, I look at cues based on how I feel when I wake up in the morning. Are my muscles aching? My muscles sore, or do I have motivation to go to training? And also, I just monitor my own heart rate as well in the morning. These factors help me decide if I should take a rest or do a lighter session instead of pushing.
Have you ever gone to that when you were getting ready for a fight and overtrained and your performance suffered?
I trained for this fight. I ran with this guy called ZG. We fought in the promotion called the Lion City Championship back in November 2021. Yeah. I think that fight I was a little overtrained for one or two of the sessions leading up to the fight. Like my skill level for that particular grappling session was not very up to par. Even my training partners could tell me that, oh, this was not you today. You felt very off. Like just the scrambling positions were not there. They're just not able to win any particular exchanges on the ground at all. And that's just being very slow to react. So that's how I knew at that point of time I was a bit overtrained. Just the performance in the training was not what I expected. It was not what my training partners knew I was capable of.
But you ended up winning that fight, right?
I ended up winning by unanimous decision.
Going back to when you got started as a teenager training, how long after you started training was your first competition?
Oh, I'll just give you a brief timeline. I started at 14, Muay Thai at 5G. And then I stopped for O-levels, so about 16 I stopped. And then after O-levels, I started again about 17. So I continued training for 2 years, and I had my first amateur Muay Thai fight at 18. So about 2 years of continuous training before I started having my first Muay Thai fight.
What was that feeling like when you got ready for your first fight?
Oh, it was nerve-wracking. It was terrible. Yeah. I remember I just couldn't sleep the whole night. After the weigh-in, I ran to the event at SMU. The Amateur Muay Thai Association of Singapore used to hold regular quarterly events at SMU. One of the events was at SMU, this place called the Big Steps. I was there, and then I just went back home. I was feeling very heavy in my legs and my head. I'm not sure if it's psychological. I was having like a real headache or what. Yeah. So as I lie in bed, and then I tried to sleep at 10. By the time I reached 1 o'clock and I was still tossing and turning, I knew I wouldn't be able to get any sleep before the fight the next day on Saturday. So I pretty much went there, sleep deprived, not having slept in no minute.
And how did it turn out?
Thankfully, I still won though. Yeah. I won that one by a TKO.
Has that process of getting ready for competitions gotten easier over the years?
I think with experience and age and the number of fights I had, every fight is like a learning experience. I get more and more comfortable with the weigh-ins, with the face-off, and then with the fight itself. Yeah, definitely get easier.
So one thing I've noticed in my BJJ competitions, and I tell white belts when we talk about the first time competing for them, I think you probably heard it a lot more than I have as well, that white belts will often be like, oh, I want to wait until I'm good enough before I do my first competition. And I always tell them, competing is a whole nother skill than jiu-jitsu. It's a skill into itself. You can do good during training and in the gym, but then you might be a completely different jiu-jitsu player during the competition. Do you think that's accurate?
Yeah, I think so too. I faced that as well in terms of jiu-jitsu competition, trying to replicate my training performance in the training room to the competition day in itself for jiu-jitsu. I think that's something I'm still trying to grapple with. It's definitely a different skill set. You can be the best in the training room, but that doesn't mean you'll be best on the day of the fight. It's who performs the best on the day. It's not the guy's track record, the name, or the guy's skill level. Yeah, so I think definitely there are people who are like very good in the training room, but they don't replicate themselves in competition. But then there's also those that are very good in competition, but they are not always the best in the training room. So they are just able to make it count and perform when it matters. I think that's a skill in itself, yeah, definitely.
How do you work on getting that better? Is it visualizations, therapy, or just repetitions and getting more competitions under your belt?
I think it's a mix of visualization and also getting more competition experience. So you compete more as like a muscle. You get used to the whole prep routine, the weigh-ins, like the preparation, the waking up, the going to the venue, hitting the referee's head. I think all this plays a part in getting you comfortable also. Learning how to find the optimal level of mental state before you can perform. Because some people need to be using sports psychological terms. Some people needs to be a bit more aroused, like highly aroused, before they can perform well. But whereas others, if they get super aroused, amped up, emotional, their performance tends to suffer. They need to have a more moderate or lower arousal state, so they're able to perform better. So when they're calm, when they are composed, then they can perform better. So I think it's about finding that balance and where you are on that scale to achieve your best performance on the mats.
Yeah, and it's tough. There's only so many competitions or times you can fight in a year. So you just don't have the reps that you do for the actual technical skills in striking MMA or jiu-jitsu.
Because you training, you can take it the next session, the next day, the next week. Still, okay, I didn't perform well today, but why? Is it my mental state? I was thinking about something else affecting my training. Like I need to be more present. I need to have an hour's break for the training session the next week. But in competition, if you, let's say you mess it up in this comp, you might need to wait another 2, 3, or even longer months to rectify it.
So I've read some fighters say that they pump up their ego before the fight to tell themselves, I'm better than this guy. I'm going to kill him. There's no way he can hurt me, all this kind of thing. Do you think that's common for fighters, or is it a mix that depends on your personality and your psychology?
Yeah, I think even it's a mix depending on the person's mental state they had before competition. Some people need to tell themselves, I'm the best, I'm better than this guy. I'll beat him everywhere. Others choose to focus on themselves and what they can control and don't care about the opponents. They just focus on their own skill level and their own preparation. They can't just keep reminding themselves of what they have done and how they have performed and adequately prepare for the competition.
For me, I know I'll never be a good competitor because I always want to go and shake the guy's hand and give him some reason to not beat me before I make a personal connection so he won't go so hard.
Some of my opponents have done that. I do take note. Some of them during the weigh-ins try to be all friendly and all that.
One big difference, I think, between Muay Thai and MMA and Jiu-Jitsu competitions are that often in Jiu-Jitsu competitions, you don't know who you're going to be matched up with until you get there on the morning. How is that for you? For MMA, you know for a long time who it is that you're going to fight.
Yeah, coming up with the whole bracket system, you might not have a lead time of 2 months to prepare for this particular opponent like it. I think in Jiu-Jitsu with the bracketing system or SmoothCom platform, you're able to know at least 1-2 days in advance. It's still not a long time, but at least know beforehand who is your first. But it definitely makes a difference trying to prepare for one opponent in MMA with 8 weeks of preparation versus just preparing in general and you only knowing the opponent's name on the day off or the day before for a jiu-jitsu competition.
Do you go through and try to game plan in the last day or two after you know that?
I think for me, I focus more on myself and what my A game is and what I'm going to do. Yeah, I think that applies even for MMA. I do watch tape, I do analyze the strengths and his weaknesses, but as the fight gets closer, I try to focus more on myself and my own strengths. I think that applies for.
What was the toughest loss?
Back in 2015, I fought the Iranian guy in MMA, so I lost that one by decision. I almost got finished multiple times in the second or third round because he was quite tough. Like I remember this instance where I head kicked him with my shin flush across his face, and then he just took it and smiled and just beckoned me on. So I know, okay, I'm in for a fight. Yeah. So this guy is an Iranian guy. I think he went on to fight professional in the Middle East. Yeah. So that fight was tough because the thought of quitting did come to my mind because of all the body shots that I took with the knees and the punches. I just told myself that no, I'm not going to give it to this guy. I made it to the end, yeah. But my body was really battered.
And so were you able to psychologically feel that, oh, he was just better than me, or he had a better day, or did you still feel down about yourself, how you lost?
Actually, after that, physically I was quite damaged, but I think mentally I was proud that I stayed in there. That I didn't just quit, even though the thought came into my head. I could have just covered up, and the referee would call it after 5 to 6 unanswered punches. I was glad I was able to overcome my self-doubt and tell myself I can still push him, I can still fight him, and never give up. That was very important for me, and that fight brought me a lot of confidence. Moving on from that fight into future fight, it gave me a lot of experience, with preparation, with training, and knowing that I can push through when it matters, the hardest level.
I remember my first match of jiu-jitsu competition, I got stuck in a triangle in the first minute and a half. And I was stuck in a triangle for the rest of the 4 minutes. I never tapped, but I never escaped either. That's what my coach told me. You didn't give up. So that's something to be proud of. But for me, it's not easy. You feel bad because people were watching, your coach was watching, expecting you to do better. I think it's a big mentally tough thing to get over a loss.
But that being said, I still think it's, even though it's cliche, like they always say, but the loss really makes you better. You take the lessons from it and learn what could have been better objectively in terms of game day preparation, in terms of preparation leading up, in terms of even the execution of the game plan or the day itself. You need to reflect on these three parts to make sure a loss makes you better for the next one.
So one thing I wanted to ask you about is the difference between normal people who are exercising for their health and athletes and competitors. You work with a lot of people like myself who are just exercising as a hobby and as a way to stay fit. How do you adjust your training to people who are not a competitor and athlete like yourself?
Yeah, so I think just trying to recognize the intent and the motivation behind each person's training. I have clients who are just general people like trying to keep fit and do something fun. So I need to make sure the way I'm pushing them is sustainable for their lifestyle of stress. Exercise is also a stressor. So I have to make sure their life is handled before they can exercise properly. So I have to make sure that the stressor I put on them is not too much until they can't recover. So yeah, it's just to manage it with there and just to keep the communication open and then modify the training program accordingly. So let's say if they are a bit more stressed outside of work with family or with some other issues outside, I have to make sure that when they come to train with me, the program is modified and tailored downwards accordingly. And that said, also, if they have a particular goal that they have to reach, I will have to tell them that they have to make the trade-off, So sometimes even though the work stress might be a little bit high, family stress might be a bit high, but because you have a particular goal that you want to reach, for example, you want to hit a target body weight, or you want to perform for this particular comp, then we have to up the ante and up the intensity and the volume of the exercise program, despite the stresses outside.
So stress, you mean both physical stress from other activities as well as the mental side of things from their family and work?
Yeah, I think all these stresses, not just physical stress from exercise, but also mental stress from your job or from your family, I think it all contributes towards your overall stress level, which will affect how you respond to training. So we always have to make sure that the stress level that we impose on the body is that you're able to recover from it. If your stress is too high and your body is not able to recover, then we are just pouring water into a jar with holes.
Currently, you are a strength and conditioning coach at the Physio Circle and at Field Assembly. How was that transition from being an athlete and training yourself to becoming a coach?
I think it's still a learning process. Like when you're an athlete, you have to be a bit more selfish, focusing on your own training, development, and what you need to work on. Whereas as a coach, you have to be selfless. You have to leave whatever that's bugging you behind, and you have to focus on the patient, on the client, making sure their session is the best. And that you maximize the time that you have with them. That for their 45 minutes or the 1 hour that you are all dialed in on them and you're focusing on making sure they are happy and achieve their goals during the session. So I think having to make that transition from focusing on yourself to focusing on others and what they need to do to achieve their goals, I think is very important, and it's something that I'm still trying to work towards in terms of getting my mindset right before a session.
And then how do you go about balancing your own training on top of that, on top of all your work?
Yeah, so because I currently have 2 jobs, so training is definitely a struggle in terms of trying to find enough time to prepare and also to train adequately, especially if I have a fight coming up. So what I do is I try to make sure that I plan my own training around the S&C sessions that I do with my clients. So let's say if I have a full day in the afternoon, I make sure they're able to keep at least the morning free before going to see my clients. Or vice versa, if I have the morning filled up, I try to make sure I have at least a pocket of time in the afternoon to fit in with my clients. Just making sure I have pockets of space throughout the day to get training in. And being consistent with the training. For example, like the training doesn't have to be like 3-4 hours, like how people in Thailand train. Like even the 1 hour or 5-minute session will be enough if you are present and if you have a structured plan in that training and know what you want to work towards in that training. having limited time available throughout the day and limited training sessions helps me narrow down my focus to know what I need to work on during that training session to make it more productive than just mindlessly training and doing exercises that might not be beneficial for my skill development. So just making sure that I'm really honed in on that during that 45 minutes to maximize my time training.
And is it difficult to get motivated to train when you've already been in the gym the whole day working with clients or coaching classes, and then you still need to go and do your own work?
For me, I'm okay. I'm quite self-motivated. I haven't really felt that lack of drive to go train, like, after a long day, I'm going to train again. Thankfully, I don't feel that lack of desire yet, which is good, because if I do, that means that I might need to pull it back. But if I feel that lack of motivation after long days of work, and that happens more regularly than usual, despite having a very low training load, then I think maybe it might be time for me to retire.
It hasn't happened yet.
It hasn't happened.
So you went to NTU for a sports science degree, right?
I went to NTU.
Was this always the plan to continue to work in these kind of roles?
Yeah, so definitely, because in a polytechnic, so I graduated from Ngee Poly, I did like a business diploma. And then when I went to NTU, I to do sports science, a lot of people were surprised, including my parents, because I told them I just wanted to change. I was already training very tired at the point. So I just wanted to learn more about the human body and anatomy to see how it could benefit my own training. That's the reason why I went to NTU to study sports science and management. Eventually, as I studied there, I got more interested in coaching as well. So I started coaching at Field Assembly part-time, and then eventually transited back to full-time coaching at Field Assembly and the Physio Circle after I graduated. So I would say it's like a natural progression. Sports, learning about my own body, and then getting interested in coaching others to achieve their physical goals.
And so you said your parents were surprised. Were they unhappy?
They always knew that I was quite an active individual, engaged in a lot of sports since young, football, and just been outside a lot. They were quite supportive when I first started. I think NTU's sports science and management course was quite a new course. So my parents didn't hear of it at all. So they were asking, so is this a new course? I said, yeah, it's a new course. And I want to try it to give myself a shot. Then they didn't really say no or yes, just told me to weigh the pros and cons of it. There are trade-offs when it comes to this kind of degree, like it's not the conventional kind of degree. That you need to be comfortable with the trade-offs, like in terms of maybe the monetary rewards might not be there yet for you when you first start. Maybe the career growth and the prospect might not be there, but as long as you're doing your passion, you're sure you want to do this, then go ahead. Yeah, so they are just asking me to weigh the pros and cons of choosing such a unconventional degree.
Yeah, I would say in Singapore, it's not a conventional degree. I think in the West, it's a lot more common. But here, I think people look at going into the corporate world, having a 9-to-5 job, a big name company is a standard path. Do you ever have doubts about the decision you made for this major?
When COVID hit in 2020, that was the same year I graduated from NTU. When the circuit breaker hit, everything was closed, the gyms were shut, and there was no way out. I had no job, and then so I had a degree, I had a student loan to repay, but I didn't have any confirmed job at that point of time. So I think that was quite scary. That was when I kind of second guessed myself if I had chose the correct path. Because if I had done a corporate job, I would be able to still secure a job, still work from home, still work offline. But because of the nature of the sports industry, I need to be there in person, and with the circuit breaker, it was impossible to find anyone willing to hire, as all the gyms were shut. It was definitely a scary time, questioning my own decision.
Yeah, that was tough. I remember that everybody was trying to do online classes through Zoom, and even the Singapore Sports Council had a call with different gym owners talking about how they could get back to reopening sooner. For a lot of industries, restaurants, food and beverage, it was very difficult as well. So how soon after the circuit breaker and the major turning points of COVID were you able to land a full-time role?
I think it was around November 2020 that my friend Shoban decided to open up his own clinic, and that's when he approached me. to join him and ask me if I want to work for him as a strength conditioning coach at Pizza Circle. During the same year, after the country had reopened, that I managed to find a job open while also working at Field Assembly at the same time.
That's also not easy, being part of a team that starts a brand new business. What was that experience like?
Yeah, so thankful for the trust that he placed in me, that he's willing to hire me as his first hire for his work company. I learned a lot from him on the job. And even now also as well. Just learned a lot from him, like him through his work and what he has done. And also seeing him grow as a business owner. I think it's quite interesting to see. I definitely learned a lot from him.
And I think for people who are doing work like yours, whether that's teaching yoga or any other sporting activity or having any job that you have clients on an individual basis, that could even be barbers and hairdressers. There's a lot more work that people don't think about when you just go there to get your haircut or you go there for training. You guys have to manage client relationships. You have to be marketing and self-promoting for yourself. Are all those skills something that you consciously work on? Does it just come with the job as you grow into it?
I think as a small and medium-sized enterprise, every worker, every employee has to, take the initiative and have the self-ownership to be part of the business and to feel like you own it as well. Even though you might not have a stake in it, you still need to feel like you are part of it. If you don't pull your weight in a small business, it's not going to work. It's not going to flourish in that small team. So you need to look out for each other in the team, making sure there's open channels of communication and just looking out for each other in the team and also pushing each other to grow, pushing each other to get better in terms of getting more social media presence, building your client relations, getting better in terms of the skill of strength conditioning, sure to self-develop, to self-improve, and making sure that you're growing as a coach. I think all that plays a part in a small team. And just having that synergy to help each other grow and get better, I think is very important in a small team.
Yeah, that's one thing I noticed about you. You have such a wide range. Of course, you work with other fighters and people who are at a high level, but some of the people who have the least experience with training and with Muay Thai or Jiu-Jitsu also are dedicated to your classes and think of you as a great coach. How do you nurture that and cater to both extremes of clients?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think the majority of clients at Field Assembly doing Muay Thai, mainly just doing it recreationally for fun and for sport. But I still want to be able to teach them the art of Muay Thai, learning what works and what doesn't work in a real fight or a real defense situation. So I always like to explain to them, we are not just blocking for the sake of blocking your face. That we are blocking with the intention that the guy is really trying to hit you. So the block needs to be as intense as the strike. So I think helping them to learn realistic skills in a safe environment, I think that's very important for me. For all my recreational students, having that realistic feel to a fight, that they can be confident that they're learning the correct things, the correct moves that will actually work. They're not just there for a good workout. Even though, a good workout might be what they're looking for, I try my best to make sure that at the same time as they're having a good workout and they're having a good spread, that they all are also learning like realistic moves and realistic techniques that can translate to a real fight. That these are things that I will also do as well. Just making sure that they know that as well. And I think so far students have been quite receptive and quite happy that I'm able to teach them the art of Muay Thai, the true art of like self-defense, the true realistic moves of the martial arts, and at the same time they're able to get a good workout in. I think they're quite happy with it.
Do you have a preference, or does one give you more fulfillment than the other between strength and conditioning, weight training versus combat sports and the more technical coaching that you do?
I think both have their merits. I spend more time coaching strength conditioning clients than my Muay Thai students. That is part of my career. I feel more inclined towards training strength conditioning clients as well. Yeah, at this part of my career, yeah. Largely because I cover more classes and more time spent with strength conditioning clients than with my Muay Thai students.
What do you think the advantages are for people who come and train at somewhere like Field Assembly or Physio Circle versus going down to Anytime Fitness or their own self-service gym?
Yeah, I think Field Assembly is great because it offers like classes and also personal training sessions that to your individual needs. Whereas sometimes Anytime Fitness, you're going there, you're doing your own thing, meandering around. You might not know what you need to work on, but at least at Field Assembly, we take the burden off you thinking of what to work on, and you just being able to just be present and just focus on what you need to do with a structured plan, and trusting that whatever the coach has planned out for you is to your best interest, and it will benefit you. I think that's the key part. Just having to not to worry about what to do and at the gym and just wasting time and just being able to get in for a quick, effective and efficient workout. That's the main selling point of Field Assembly and also Physio Circle for the strength conditioning side.
I want to go back to when you decided to go to NTU for sports science. You'd previously been studying for business. How was that decision for you? Did you have to think about it for a long time? Was it impulsive? How did you end up making that decision?
Funny story, I was serving my last 6 months of my diploma at the internship company. Yeah, so I was working like in the office there. So I had to work 6 month internship before I can get my diploma. And at the point of time, I was very formal where to work. I was doing the 9 to 5 job, Monday to Friday. And it just felt like I wasn't cut out for it. I couldn't sit still in the office, working 6 hours, wearing office wear, going to work every day, squeezing on the MRT at night, coming back at 5. I just felt it wasn't right for me. Like intuitively, I wanted to try a new career path, something that is not common. So that was where I first explored like other higher level tertiary options. And then when I saw sports science, I was like, okay, let me try that. Since I like sports, though I've been training Muay Thai, and I'm also interested in strength conditioning.
Did they give you good guidance about what kind of jobs you should look for after you get your degree or what's available to you?
Oh, yeah, so definitely. So we always have the career fair whereby they invite external vendors to look for prospective students to secure internships, part-time plans, or employment contracts with them. So they organize like regular career fairs in your final years as a sports science and management student at NTU. And also they put it on a career path track whereby you have like workshops throughout your final year, learning more about things like how to design your resume, how to answer interview questions, how to network with employers, stuff like that. So I had career preparation events happening throughout the final year as SMU as an NTU student, which allows me to be prepared for work and eventual transition to the workforce. I think that helped. If I'm not wrong, they're still doing that now.
Yeah, that's very helpful. What I do currently for work has nothing to do with my major when I was in university, but it took quite a while to figure that out. So I'm always interested in people who have a very direct correlation with what they studied in school and what they end up doing for work. One other thing you mentioned earlier was that you're very self-motivated and self-driven, and I'm curious more about that. Is that a skill that you've developed over time, or does it come naturally to you?
It's a hard question to answer for myself. I think you have to ask other people as well. So I would say I would like to think that it's an innate trait in me, like being self-motivated and self-driven. But obviously we all have days where we feel like, I just want to like chill and not do anything. But majority of my time, I'm actually quite self-motivated in terms of my athletic goals and also in terms of my career goals in training clients. I think lucky I have that drive. But I'm not sure also whether or not it's like that I was born with, or it's just like a muscle. The more you push it, the more you work it, the more you feel like you are getting better at it. It's a really tough question to answer. I'm not sure.
Do you have guilty food you eat or something that's unhealthy that you let yourself have once in a while?
Yeah, so after every fight, I usually do that, but I haven't been doing that for the past 2 fights to keep myself in check. I usually have a big McDonald's meal after a fight. I'll usually order a double cheeseburger upsize with 4-piece back wings meal. That's my go-to cheat meal after every fight. regardless, win or lose. Yes.
Most people say once a week or after a tough training session, but for you, it's only after an actual fight.
Yeah.
That's only a few times a year.
Cutting weight, I start thinking about all the food choices I can eat. If I'm not cutting weight for a fight, I don't crave the McDonald's. It's just that when I cut weight for a fight, then suddenly, mentally, I feel like I want something guilty, like fast food, McDonald's or KFC. From day to day, if I'm not cutting weight, I don't have that craving at all. Really.
No, that's good. I'm lucky in that I don't particularly like sweet things, but there's lots of other unhealthy eating choices that I make. So let's talk about the future. What are your goals, first of all, for your combat sports career in MMA, Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai?
I would definitely like to continue training with my workload, with my career coming up, and the strength conditioning clients I'm seeing, as well as the Muay Thai students that I'm coaching. Time is definitely a limiting factor in terms of my training. But I just want to be able to still do it when I'm young and not wait I'm 10 years down the road and then not able to physically compete and have any kind of regret. That's why I still want to push for my MMA career as well at this point of time, because I want to do it before it's too late, So I will stay over the next 2-3 years. I would still like to compete more often and then focus more on MMA. And then longer term down the road, I think I want to focus more on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So for the immediate goal, while I'm still young, I want to focus more on competing in MMA because I feel I'm mentally and physically at my peak now. I feel that now is the opportune time that I need to grab before I regret if I wait too late or if I don't do it now.
And what's the challenges for doing that more? Is it your personal time? Is it finding fights to participate in?
I think if you want to work, train, and compete, just having time outside of that is a challenge. But like with all things in life, there's always trade-offs that you need to make. And you have to be okay with it. I think for now and for this season in my life, I'm okay with the trade-offs of having less time outside of work, outside of training and competition. Because I know that this part of my life is not going to last forever, that I'll move on to another journey of my life. I need to make it count now when I can compete at the highest level.
And how about for your personal life and career? What is success going to look like for you in 10 years down the road?
Success. I think over the years it changed. I used to be like everyone, like want to earn big bucks, want to climb the corporate ladder and stuff like that. But after working since I started at NTU to now, I think I realized I just want to make an impact on people's life. At the same time, we're earning a good income to be able to sustain myself and my family. I wanted to impact others day to day in their lives through the interactions when they see me for trainings or outside of trainings or even when we are training together in the same training room. I just want to leave a positive impact on people. Just leave them better than where they are now. Come and see me.
That's great. Well, thank you very much, Glenn, for being here. Where can people find you on social media?
You can follow me on Instagram, Glen_Rockstar. If you want to connect with me, work with me, or talk to me about anything, feel free to DM me on Instagram below.
All right. Thank you very much, Glenn.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Before We Get There with your host, Nicholas Braman. Please like and subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can also find us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Before We Get There Podcast. New episodes are released every Thursday morning. See you next time.